DaVinci Resolve 21 is out. It's filled with brand new features and improvements to existing tools. In this video, we will cover new features. Look out for on-screen text that indicates studio-only features. And make sure you check out the rest of our Resolve 21 videos, like our video on the brand new page in DaVinci Resolve. Let's get started. We're starting with a bang. When working on large projects, finding clips in your media pool is time-consuming and can slow down your creativity. Previously, for clips to be searchable, an assistant editor needed to laboriously enter keywords and metadata. Now you can use Intellisearch to analyze the contents of your media. This button here triggers the analysis, but before we do, there's a few settings to configure. First, in the triple dot menu, choose between a better quality analysis or a faster analysis. If you want, you can choose faster to start with, and then build a better index later. I'm going to choose better because I have the time right now. Then in this drop-down, configure whether Intellisearch should analyze your entire media pool or just the selected clips. I'm going to analyze everything. Now that's all set, you can hit Analyze. This button is not only used to trigger Intellisearch analysis, but it's now where you will also find transcription, audio classification, and this other new feature, Slate Detection, which we shall cover shortly. I'll leave everything selected and hit Analyze. If this is your first time using Intellisearch or Slate Detection, the Extras Download Manager will prompt you to download the necessary AI models from Blackmagic Design. While I'm here, I'll hit Download All. I won't make you watch this download, let's skip ahead. The analysis is now running. If you didn't know this analysis is running locally on my computer. All of Resolve's AI functionality uses local compute. Your media is not being sent to a cloud service. I can't use my computer while the analysis is running. But version 21 now has the option for renders and transcription to happen in the background. So maybe we'll see Intellisearch analysis become a background task in the future. Keep in mind that for this to run efficiently, you'll need sufficient VRAM for your computer to load the models. It's all done now. To take advantage of all of that analysis, open the search controls. It's currently configured to search through the entire media pool, not just the bin I currently have selected. It's also currently configured to search the visuals, transcription, and metadata. I'm going to start with something simple, man. Resolve won't begin to search until you press Enter. It's brought back every shot or image that features a man. Here's Leon. Here's Ruben. This one has Leon in, but it also has me in. Here I am with Leon's father. You'll notice, though, that it's also included this shot of just me. That's because our search was configured to look through the transcription as well as the visuals. The yellow line in the search thumbnails shows in what part of the clip that the search phrase has been identified, whether that's a visual result or a result in the transcription. At the moment, the search results displays the entire clip, regardless of how much of the clip matched the search result. By changing it to display segments, it will display unique search results for each match from the source material. These work like subclips. We can now understand why these shots of a woman have been included in my search. It has located instances where I say man, even if it's part of a larger word. If I drag any of those instances into the timeline, I can hear that I say those words, man, and just like a subclip, I can extend it to access more of the original media. If the inclusion of results from transcription is unwanted, just configure Intellisearch to only look for visuals. And now those transcription matches are not coming up. To demonstrate how impressive Intellisearch is, I want to show you some more tests. If I type mountain, it will show me results with mountains. Let's try dog. And it finds these beautiful German Shepherd photos. Type duck. It manages to find the one clip in my media pool that has ducks in it. If I type police, it finds this single clip in my media pool of a police car. Nighttime displays the 2 shots from LA in the evening. It can also recognize text in your visuals. For example, if I type Barnard, it finds our name on this slate from a recent shoot at the Kodak factory. That was a still image. It works with video too. If I type chart, it finds this shot with the word chart printed on it. Or if I type gym, it finds this shot of Muscle Beach, Venice. But hang on, wait a moment. The wall doesn't say gym in this shot. It just says Venice Muscle Beach. So Intellisearch is identifying this clip because it has visually recognized that this is a gym. How cool is that? One more text example. If I type Kodak, it finds the still image we've looked at already, and it also identifies exterior shots of Kodak's factory and theater because they say Kodak. The yellow line shows there's just a portion of the clip where the word Kodak is visible. That's because at the beginning and end of the clip, the Kodak sign is not in shot as the camera moves. That is pretty cool. It identifies that. Even though this tool is still in beta and is likely to improve with future iterations, it is already working well enough to have a significant impact on your workflows. This is really cool stuff. Thank you, Blackmagic. DaVinci Resolve can now detect slates. In this lab reel scan from a recent shoot, there are a number of takes with slates and sync sound. Slate analysis can be triggered with the AI Clip Analysis button, or by right-clicking on a clip and going to AI Tools and Analyze for Slate. As I already triggered the analysis in the previous demonstration, it's already done. If I open the clip in the source viewer, you can see that markers have been placed wherever a slate has been found. Now that we have found slates, Resolve can actually extract data from them to populate the clip's metadata. This really impressed us. The quality isn't brilliant, neither is our handwriting. Look what happens when we click this button though. Despite everything, Resolve has read that data perfectly. Mercury 42, T2.8 might not be a great scene name, but it is exactly what we scrolled on the slate. If I hit save, that data will now be saved into the clip's metadata. Very impressive. This video is sponsored by Audiio, where with our discount code, you can get 70% off an entire year of royalty-free music. We use Audiio for all of our music. We'd like to highlight a genuinely useful feature, and that is their phone app. The homepage features new artists and playlists. That's a great place to start if you don't know what you're looking for yet. If you're out and about, you've got time to kill, instead of listening to music you already know, you can explore Audiio's library and start building ideas for your next edit. If you're looking for something specific, head to search. You can do all the normal stuff like search through song titles, artists, and keywords, or you can hit this button in the middle. This is Hans AI. It understands the music in Audiio's library. You can either describe the kind of song you're looking for or describe the video that you're looking to make. Either way, when you find songs you like, mark them as a favorite. Now when you sit down to start editing, instead of starting from zero, you're already ahead. You can get an entire year of Audiio Pro for just $60 using our discount code in the description. This tool can be used to generate a voiceover from a text prompt. Head to Timeline, AI Tools, Speech Generator. I'm going to use a passage of text as my input. Resolve is bundled with 4 voice models, but we think most people will want to create their own custom voice. To do that, we need to supply Resolve with a recording of someone. I'm going to use Leon's voice. I've prepped a short 20-second recording. Like with other AI tools, the quality of the sample you use is really important. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. This is a really nice clean sample recorded with a good microphone. We suspect that the UI for loading custom voice samples will improve in subsequent releases. For example, by allowing you to save models or choose samples from your media pool rather than loading them in from outside of Resolve. I've already played with this tool and found that it spoke too fast to match Leon's cadence, surprisingly. So I'm going to slow it down slightly. Variation in pitch can also be used to further refine the generated speech. Speech Generator can create different readings of your input. To get a different performance, hit Randomize to generate a new C number from which the performance is randomized. Finally, these controls at the bottom allow you to choose where the file is stored, whether it's inserted into the timeline, and what track it goes on. Let's hit Generate. And here's the result.
The software is structured around task-specific workspaces called pages. each designed for a distinct stage of the post-production workflow. The cut and edit pages.
This is really
video
impressive.
editing.
It even adds breaths between sentences where I'd expect a real human artist to breathe. As this is a first-generation tool, it might not match the quality of external premium AI models, but this doesn't require an additional license or subscription. It's included in your studio license. This open effects tool allows you to simulate shallow depth of field in images with deep focus. Like other open effects tools, it can be used on all the pages, except Fairlight, of course. We're demonstrating it on the color page. I'm using this hiking shot because it's shot on an iPhone with super deep depth of field. Previously, it was possible to simulate shallow depth of field using a combination of tools. For example, you can use either depth map or magic mask to isolate a subject and then defocus background to add blur. Much like cinematic haze, CineFocus appears to combine technology that we've already seen added in previous versions of Resolve into a single effect. At the heart of CineFocus is a depth map. You can preview it by clicking on depth. This looks very familiar. CineFocus incorporates most of depth map's controls. It's missing isolation and deflicker. If you need additional control over the depth map, you can use the dedicated depth map effect in a separate node and connect it to the CineFocus node's alpha input. Like this. That would allow you, for example, to use a dedicated deflicker node to improve the stability of the depth map. Again, like this. Focus shows you the portion of the image that will be in focus. You can change the focal point using the focal distance slider, or if you have the OpenEffects Viewer overlay enabled, which is typically enabled by default when you add an OpenEffects effect, you can set the focus distance by clicking on the image, which I find very cool. Depth of field increases the amount of the image that's in focus. This No Foreground Blur checkbox is particularly helpful as defocus often looks best when it's just in the background of the image and you're not starting to lose foreground sharpness. By the way, if you are using CineFocus to blur a foreground object, you might find these additional foreground controls helpful. The aperture mode is for fine-tuning the kind of lens that you are simulating. It gives you this really helpful graphic to understand how the tool is configured. In lens properties, you can configure stuff like chromatic aberration or simulate anamorphic lenses. It's handy to be able to see the simulated effect separate from the image you are applying it to. Let's go back to seeing the final result. When working on images with noise or grain, these tools down here, remove and replace grain, are especially important. Defocusing parts of an image will also remove any noise or grain present, making them look unusual or even fake. It's common in visual effects workflows to remove grain and apply effects and then reapply grain. CineFocus incorporates those tools directly, and it's not just a generic denoise and regrain, it's actually simulating the grain found in the original image. We'd recommend using AI Ultra NR. By default, it just performs noise reduction on the entire image. But if you actually want it to leave the grain in the image, you need to select Replace Grain after defocus. Turn on the Preview Grain feature, and it will show you what that grain looks like. You might think this grain isn't pretty. It's not, but it's the noise found in the original image, shot on the iPhone. So if you want your CineFocus shot to match with the rest of your unmanipulated footage, well, now it will have the same noise found in all the other images. I want to jump to another shot briefly. This is shot on film. If I enable Remove Grain, Ultra NR, and then preview the grain, you can see it looks distinctly different to the previous image. It's got that sweet film grain. All right, back to the hiking shot. Finally, you can even animate focus racks. Obviously, you can do that by keyframing the focus distance control, but you can also do it by tracking an object in the image. Enable Track Focus to Point. This gives you a control you can move around the screen, and where you place it, CineFocus will set the focus distance to focus on that part of the image. Let's put it on my face. You'll notice, though, it doesn't move when I move. We need to track it. open the tracker controls and switch it to the Open Effects mode. The tracker tool currently doesn't know what part of the image I want to track it to. You might think, hey, I've already positioned the CineFocus point, but that's the Open Effects control. The tracker doesn't understand what that point is or that it even exists. So let's track it. We'll create a tracking point by clicking here. I'll position it in exactly the same spot as the CineFocus tool. And finally, let's switch the tracker to AI IntelliTrack mode because it's better at tracking objects like a face. And now we can track in both directions. Check this out. The focus racks with me. It's keeping my face perfectly in focus as I move toward the camera. We think there's two problems people will have with this effect. The first is overdoing it. Images with deep depth of field often have distinctive aesthetics. For example, wide-angle lenses often have deep depth of field. You can add a synthetic blur to the background, but it will look out of place when the image is filled with visual cues that are found in images that your brain knows normally have deep depth of field. This effect will only look right on particular images, and even then, it should be applied subtly. The other problem is that this effect is reliant on depth map. Some images work well with depth map, others not so much. For example, in this shot, the distant walkers flicker in and out in the depth map. Depth map has one other fundamental flaw. Its results appear to be dynamically normalized. That's when data is rescaled to fit within a specific range. When viewed as a black and white image, the closest object is always white and the furthest object is always black. The distant foreground in this aerial has the same value as I do while standing directly in front of the camera in this shot. As a result, depth map provides the relative distance of objects within a scene, not their absolute distance, and the scale can change as objects move further away from or closer towards the camera. Here's a great example. We'll leave CineFocus in focus preview mode. I'm going to reset that focus animation I did earlier. So this is now with a supposedly fixed focus. As I walk towards camera, you can see the part of the image in focus changes. It appears as if it's tracking me, but the focus distance has not been animated to change. This instability is due to depth map's dynamic normalization that changes throughout the shot. This is a really cool and promising tool, but like the other brand new features in Resolve 21, it's a first-generation tool. I'm sure we'll continue to see improvements. This tool uses AI to de-age or age people's faces. I'm going to use a shot of Leon. We're demonstrating it in the color page. Apply it to the clip. You'll need to detect the faces in the image and track them. Set the subject's age control to match your subject's age. Now you can use age offset to either add years to their face or take them away. It works really well, and it can even handle profiles, motion blur, and partial occlusions of the face. This tool is only changing his face though. People obviously don't just age in their face, their entire body changes. So the changes made to the face look great, but when it's not accompanied by the other signs of aging, it can look a little out of place. Perhaps future versions of this tool will be able to age ears, neck, and hair. As with many tools, this effect looks best when applied subtly. We think in its current form, it will see the most use for subtle de-aging. This tool allows you to make subtle adjustments to the shape of people's faces. Like with the face aging tool, begin by detecting faces and then tracking that face. Then you can use all of these sliders to make tweaks to their face. It appears that the tool is using AI to track facial features, but then these adjustments look more like morphs. As a result, if you drastically change the shape of the face, you will see distorting in the background as the subject moves. It's possible to achieve some fairly comical results, like this one, but you can also use it to make subtle adjustments. We can see this tool being used by editors and colorists working on beauty content. What would you use it for? By the way, if you apply this effect, or the face age transformer effect, to a clip that features more than one face, it will detect both. But you can choose the one that you want it to affect by clicking in the viewer. Then track the face. So if you want to apply it to both people, you would just use more than one instance of the effect in your node tree. Another beauty tool. This one can automatically remove scars, moles, acne, and other skin blemishes. Unlike other face touch-up tools, this is not removing blemishes by softening the image. It's actually, in effect, cloning those blemishes out. It's incredibly simple to apply. Nothing needs to be detected or tracked. It has one single control, a strength slider. It's really quite subtle. If I turn it on and off, you can see it's removed the minor blemishes she had on her skin. I don't think she needed touch-up work at all. She's beautiful. But I can definitely see how this will be a useful tool for some workflows. If for any reason this tool starts to impact other parts of the image, for example, it misidentifies features as blemishes that shouldn't be removed, you can combine it with a mask, whether that be one you have drawn manually or a magic mask. If there was a single blemish you wanted to remove, you could do this. I'll place a small circular power window over the blemish, make sure it has a soft edge, go to the tracker panel, track the window back and forth, and voila! Now the blemish tool is constrained to this one blemish. This tool is for sharpening soft or out of focus images. As I demonstrate it, I'm going to compare it with the previous tools that were available for sharpening. This image is already really well focused, but the lens is wide open, so it's a little soft. It's not really an issue, but if you want to zoom in, like really zoom in, well, now the lower resolution combined with that softness is much more apparent. A little extra sharpness will help it blend with the other images. Previously, I'd have used a tool like Sharpen, like this. It looks sharper, but it's not added any detail. It's just made the details that were there more contrasty. Let's delete that effect and add UltraSharpen. That's so much better. You can adjust the strength to taste. What about a shot that is out of focus? Let's simulate that on this shot. I'll clear the existing nodes and add a moderate amount of Gaussian blur. Obviously, this effect cannot work miracles. It's not designed to rebuild details that have been destroyed. It's designed to enhance images, but you can totally use it to fix images where you've missed the focus. Hopefully, though, you're not shooting images that are more defocused than this. You definitely spot this on a camera monitor. Let's add another node and apply UltraSharpen. Look at that. It's managed to produce a usable image. Again, you can adjust the strength to taste. It's clearly not as good as the original image, but this is 100% usable. Of course, this tool can be combined with masks to constrain the sharpening to particular parts of the image. Here's a new tool you can use on the Fusion page. I'm going to demonstrate with this interview clip. This is Dan of Atlas Lens Co.
I was in junior high school and we had a dark room.
Such a cool guy, and we'll share this conversation in a future video. Let's head into the Fusion page. I'm going to build a volume meter that reacts to his voice as he talks. We'll start with a rectangle. I'm going to make it skinny and move it to the side of the frame. Let's give it some color by adding a background node and connecting it. And equipping that background node in the left-hand viewer. Let's give it a nice pretty color by switching its type to gradient. And then I'm going to build a gradient kind of like you'd see on a volume meter. It can start at green, morph to yellow, and then to red. There's one thing left to do. Reorientate the gradient so it follows the shape of the volume bar. That's great. Okay, this has nothing to do with the new Fairlight accelerator effect that I'm going to show you. I just wanted the demonstration to look pretty. So here we go. Go back to the background node, right-click on the height property, and modify it with the new Fairlight Animator modifier.
For photography, and my parents had a Minolta stills camera
And just like that, it's already working. It's using the level of the audio to animate the height of the rectangle tool. You could connect this modifier to any inspector property you want. Let's just do a little more work to get this set up. Rectangles pivot around their center. I can add a simple expression to the center property to fix that though. Remember, these two values represent X and Y. I only want to affect the Y property. If I set it to 0.25, but then add half the height, that has the effect of making the rectangle pivot around its bottom edge.
Camera that they let me use as a hand-me-down. This is on 35mm.
Finally, head to the Modifier tab. By changing the scale property, I can make my animation movements bigger. Let's have a quick watch.
35mm film, and the class was teaching us junior high school kids.
That looks really good.
12.
As you can see, it's using audio from the underlying clip, but you can also drag audio directly into the modifier from the media pool. There's so much to explore with this tool, but I hope this has given you a basic understanding of how it works and has inspired you to use it yourself. We love this new feature. It's common to be asked to deliver multiple versions of the same video, but mastered for different color spaces. MultiMaster Trim can help. Access it in the color menu. The process of adjusting a color grade for a particular display standard is often called a trim. Previously, you typically create different timelines for each deliverable, but this creates challenges, for example, when you need to change the edit. Now that change needs to be tracked and propagated to the other timelines. MultiMaster Trim makes it so much easier. In this example, I will configure Trim 1 to output Rec 709 Gamma 2.4 and then name it accordingly. I'll add and configure Trim 2 to output Rec 2100 and once again label it accordingly. You can see that these trims will enable extra node graphs that can be applied to clips, groups, or the entire timeline. As you switch between different trims, these additional node graphs effectively get turned on and off. Hit Save. Control which trim I currently have enabled using the triple dot menu on the right-hand side. As you can see, I'm currently in the Rec 709 trim. In the drop-down, used to switch between different node graphs, you will see 3 new possibilities. There is a trim node graph that gets applied to individual clips. That's the trim after clip node graph. There's also a before the timeline trim that gets applied to all the clips in the timeline. And an after the timeline node tree. That also applies to all the clips in the timeline. If this clip was part of a group, you would see additional trim node graphs for a pre and post group. I'll make a grade after timeline. For the sake of demonstration, I'll apply an obvious grade that's easy to spot by giving the image a strong blue cast. Now if I switch to the Rec 2100 trim, that blue cast is no longer present. I can now apply a timeline-wide grade in the after timeline node graph to make this suitable for HDR delivery. Again though, I'm just going to do something obvious. I'll add a strong green cast. Rec 2100 trim has a green cast. Rec 709 trim has a strong blue cast. I've graded each deliverable separately, but I'm still in the same timeline. That's awesome. On the Deliver page, you can choose which trim you'd like to render and set up separate jobs for each. This got us thinking about what else we can do with the multi-trim tool. Let's head back to the manager. Did you notice you can configure different resolutions for each trim pass? Let's make a new trim. Let's keep it at Rec 709 Gamma 2.4, but change the resolution to a vertical format. Let's also set mismatch files to scale full frame with crop. And finally, call it vertical. Hit Save. Now let's switch to the vertical trim. And voila, we have a vertical delivery from the same timeline as our horizontal delivery. Now, when producing vertical deliveries, it's common to have to reposition certain shots. We can't use the Edit Page Inspector to do this as it would affect all of the trims. It's a good job that we can reposition clips in the Color page though. Select the After Clip graph. That means this grade only applies to this one single clip because you will want separate position adjustments for each clip. Go to the Sizing panel and make sure you're using node sizing, not clip sizing. If we use the regular size controls, it will affect all of the trims. But if we use the node sizing controls, we can place this adjustment in the trim grade. Again, to make things obvious, I'll pan this clip hard to the left. Looks good. And now when I switch back to the regular Rec 709 horizontal delivery, that position adjustment is no longer visible, and I've got that blue cast back. Head to the Deliver page and select the vertical trim. And brilliant, it's displaying the correct resolution for our vertical delivery. So, This tool can be used to produce different color trims, but also, if you're creative, you can use it to deliver different framings as well. While this might not be what multi-trim is for, it certainly works. This new feature is one of those save your bacon kind of new features. AI Motion Deblur allows you to remove motion blur from footage. Here's some documentary footage that we shot recently for a video you will see soon on the channel. We made a mistake and accidentally knocked the camera controls and shot a great deal of footage with a 360-degree shutter. So the footage has this smeary look because it has more motion blur than you would typically expect. Find the clip you wanted to blur, right-click, go to AI Tools, Remove Motion Blur. This is a computationally intensive process, so you might want to limit it to just the portions of the clip you are using, and you also might want to render at timeline resolution, not your source resolution. Let's hit render. This isn't a dynamic effect. It's going to get baked into a rendered clip, so you'll want to give consideration to how and where you use this tool in your workflow. I'll skip ahead to the result. You can see that it's made a notable difference. If I freeze frame when the talent moves quickly, you can see that it's removed most of the motion blur from his face and torso. It's deblurred the shot, but not excessively. It still has some motion blur, which we would expect. We'd love to see the controls to use this effect integrated into the timeline, kind of like render and replace, but with deblur included. That will make it much easier to use in your edits. We're going to cover one last feature in this video. We weren't sure whether to include it in our new features video or our upgrades and improvements video, because it is an old feature and a new feature all in one. You'll see. Previously, when rendering from DaVinci Resolve, you couldn't continue working. The program was locked in the Deliver page while the render was happening. DaVinci Resolve now supports background renders. To enable this feature, head to System Preferences, Background Tasks, and make sure Background Renders is turned on. Most people will also want to enable pausing on foreground activity so that Resolve doesn't slow down while you're editing. Now I can head to the Deliver page, start the render queue, and look, I can continue working. You can monitor the progress of the render in the render queue, just like before, or by hitting this button down here. This will show you any renders happening in the background. It will also show you other background tasks like transcription. That was a lot. Well done, Blackmagic, yet again. We didn't even cover the brand new page in DaVinci Resolve. Please check out our video dedicated to the new photo page, along with our other Resolve 21 videos. There's so much in this release, we won't have covered everything. We are sure the other amazing Resolve educators will no doubt highlight facets that we have missed. So, what do you think? What features are you most excited about? What will you use in your work? Please let us know in the comment. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you can, please consider sharing it with a friend or work colleague. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Thanks so much for watching.